That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to talk about the flames of disaster. And no, I'm not referring to Sonic 06. What's up guys, I'm Pencil, and here we are to do a breakdown in this session on how good the flames of disaster, or the disaster flames, are actually. If you did not know, disaster flames is JOGO's technique, the technique of the second strongest of the disaster curses. Admittedly, I've been hearing that kind of opinion is changing nowadays. I don't know. Regardless, JOGO, the man declared strong by Sukuna, the man declared weak by Satoru Gojo. Regardless of the opinions of the strongest, we must analyze JOGO's technique as a whole and determine its viability as a whole. So let's not waste any more time and let's hop right into it. What's up guys, hello Pencil here. Fun fact, I have it on me. I keep it on me at all times. And another fun fact, JOGO does not have it on him. In fact, he doesn't keep it on him. In fact, dare I say, JOGO never really had anything on him. If I'm being completely real with you, it's kind of like nothing. Honestly. But that's the beauty of Disaster Flames. JOGO does not need to have it on him. He does not need to keep it on him because he can spawn it on him at any time. And he kind of has it all around him. Disaster Flames, in my opinion, is one of, I wouldn't say the best techniques in the entire series. Obviously, you have things like the Limitless. Obviously, you have things like Cleaving Dismantle. Obviously, you have things like Comedian. Obviously, you have things like the peak of the 10 Shadows. I wouldn't say the regular 10 Shadows is at all better than Disaster Flames, but you have a bunch of other higher tier techniques. But Disaster Flames in of itself is one of the most solid, the most well-rounded, and the most complete kits we see in the entire series. If you're a Jujutsu Kaisen reader, you know there's one thing that Gege hates doing, and that's elaborating on characters' full kits of abilities. But JOGO is one of the few that I think we have pretty much a full list of everything his curse technique has to offer, and with the addition of anime episode 16 of season 2 for Jujutsu Kaisen, we get even more. Now, the canonicity of this relative to the manga and manga scaling versus anime scaling is admittedly very, very weird. There have been a bunch of different, discrepancies between Mappa's adaptation of JJK and the original manga interpretation of JJK. Do what you will with that. But Disaster Flames got a hefty old little buff by the manga. Well, not by the manga, but by the anime, that allows it to shoot up a bit higher in certain ranks than what I would have initially ranked it. Though, know that I would have initially ranked it quite high on its own, because Disaster Flames is strong. JOGO, you can kind of figure out my thoughts on JOGO. Made a whole video on whether or not I believed he was strong. But in terms of his abilities, there are a lot, and they are very, very good. Number one, fire. Now, admittedly, in a world like Jujutsu Kaisen, where you have people who can manipulate space, erase space from existence, manipulate the Shadow Realm itself, you have people who control probability, people who can create heaven-piercing light that can erase evil. You have a lot of things, but there ain't nothing like some good old-fashioned fire. Because no matter what, no matter who you are, unless your name's Real Suguna, I guess, you can be lit on fire. And that's a very nice thing that Disaster Flames has. And notably, this fire is not just any kind of fire. It's fire that can be used at close range, fire that can be used at long range, fire that can be used at mid range. One of the bigger issues that a lot of other techniques or weapons or abilities in JJK have is their lack of range variance. A lot of your better techniques tend to be very, very close range or very, very long range, and there's no real in between except for the top tiers of top tiers. But for something like Disaster Flames, the flexibility of just having fire is very, very good. The fact that JOGO is able to create fire simply by touching people, the fact that JOGO simply in his presence, most natural things would just burn alive just because of how steamy that boy is with his technique. The fact that the fire can be used as a long-range projectile, it can be used defensively, it can be used any way that JOGO can really imagine is fantastic. Even give the flame abilities to a more competent sorcerer, anybody who has a slightly higher IQ than JOGO, and you could go absolutely crazy with the implications of what that fire could really get down to do. Once again, that's the most basic application of it. The Disaster Flames allow you to manipulate fire. And one of the beautiful things about this fire is that it's not just limited to fire. JOGO is not just a fire type Pokemon. He is a fire ground type Pokemon. You might as well call him Camerupt because he has that lava on him. And now the lava in of itself, I'd say, is honestly more useful than the fire because of its construct ability. Notably, this is something that's not necessarily shown off very much in the manga. In fact, I'm trying to think of all of Jogo's encounters, all three of them, and like, no, well, four, legally speaking, four encounters, and he doesn't necessarily use the lava that much. But the anime reveals that Jogo has the ability to simply control massive lava constructs, and you essentially get what you get with the fire, except it's now solid. In Jujutsu Kaisen, a lot of characters can likely run through fire, a lot of characters could face tank it, a lot of characters could simply heal the fire off and then run at Jogo. But the beauty of having lava on top of the fire is that they can't just run through that. They're going to have to tear through actual mounds of molten rock. So you get the burning effect of fire, you get the effective range that comes with any of Jogo's basic attacks, and you also have the extra wall ability that is going to add durability and potency to every single one of your attacks. Your opponent can't just run through a brick wall that happens to be on fire, just like they could hypothetically run through a wall of fire. So the lava ability, very, very good. A quality ability in of itself. But getting to some of Jogo's specific abilities. The ability to spawn volcanoes pretty much from anywhere. Notably, I do believe, it's never stated in the manga nor in any extra materials as far as I know, but I do believe that Jogo's ability to spawn volcanoes, as he does against Nobito in order to eradicate him, kind of can just happen. Like, remember, he summoned one off a random mountain against Gojo, but to be fair, there was a random mountain. Who knows? Maybe there was volcanic... Would there be volcanic activity under a random mountain, though? I don't think so. Like, very specifically volcanoes. So I guess you can use that too. But the one that gets me the most is Nobito. He can kind of just produce a volcano on the spot. And these volcanoes are not slow. Once again, Nobito, while he was admittedly nerfed due to the loss of his arm, he still is one of the fastest characters in the series. And the fact that he got tagged by double instant volcano spawning is very, very impressive. That means that Jogo's attacks have speed, they have ferocity, they have potency, they have power behind them. The disaster flames provide great field control, thanks to Jogo's ability to spawn volcanoes. For anyone else but Gojo and Sukuna, and certain other characters you could argue that would just ignore it for the most part, be able to brute force their way through it or blitz Jogo before he could activate anything, the fact that Jogo has some of the most deadly control over the battlefield in the entire manga is crazy. A character like Hanami is another character who has drastic control over the battlefield. A character like Dagon is another disaster curse, has fantastic control over the battlefield through the utilization of plants and water respectively. But here's the thing about plants and water. Sure, you can make a sharp thorn do a whole bunch of damage. You can make a whole bunch of water do a bunch of... It's lava. It's lava. Cursed energy enhanced lava. It's gonna burn you. While you could kind of just swim through any of Dagon's attacks if you get creative enough. And Hanami, you know, I mean, branches and trees are cool and stuff like that, but if you got it on you, there ain't nothing you gotta worry about with that. I mean, I don't think I'm cutting through lava. My name isn't Ryomen Sukuna. I'm not about to cut through some lava. So the fact that Jogo through Disaster Flames has some of the best area control in the entire series, through his manipulation of volcanoes, through the ability to constantly spawn fire, he can kind of just mold the battlefield as he sees fit. He can pretty much make the world his own domain. Once again, the anime episode expands on this drastically with Jogo's ability to kind of just flood an entire area that should have no volcanic activity at all with just oogles and boogles of lava. Just slop everywhere. It might as well be Jogo. Let me stop. But with that being the case, the battlefield control, fantastic. The range, fantastic. The attacking ability, fantastic. Because fire's fire. Hot rock is hot rock. And sure, you know, we go to our saunas here and there, but you don't want hot rock that hot. And another thing about Jogo that makes him relatively good with his technique in particular is his ability to use those bugs. Now, the bugs kind of get, I don't want to say negative showings in the manga, but like, they don't really do anything. They just detonate in front of Gojo, and that's about it. They don't achieve anything, and then Jogo proceeds to never use them again. But having multiple little sentient life forms is great, especially since these life forms can just boom at any moment. So if your opponent is going at you in a one-on-one scenario, you can now send out multiple other pseudo-sentient life forms to press them and get in their way as you're about to light them on fire. That's the beauty of the bugs. They allow for combo maneuvers. A big thing in JJK is that a lot of characters kind of struggle to combo into themselves unless they have insane speed. Like characters like Toji, characters like Gojo, characters like Sukuna, heck, even characters like Nobito and Naoya, they are capable of like, oh, let me just wombo combo into myself real quick. They can hit you with one punch, knock you into another punch, knock you into a kick, and do things like that. But technique-wise, it's kind of hard to do that for a lot of other characters. Sure, there are things like the Ten Shadows and other Shikigami technique like her spirit manipulation, but for things like Disaster Flames, it's one of the few where it has those setup opportunities, not just through battlefield manipulation, but through the bugs and through the ability of the bugs to detonate at any moment. You can consistently control how your opponent has to perceive a situation with Disaster Flames, and you can always press them with what should, 9 out of 10 times, once again, unless your name is Ryomen Sukuna or Satoru Gojo, lethal damage. Though admittedly, the lethality of Gojo's casual flames is a little bit questionable, considering Nanami nor Maki actually got by his flames. It was only Nobito, who was already missing an arm and had the most damage and was pressed by a majority of Dagon's domain power before Toji and Megami showed up. So, like, it still is questionable, the potency of the casual flames, but still, that's good. You can essentially control the battlefield on multiple different levels, and you can set up into yourself, which is something that's very difficult to do. Things like Soul Split Katana don't allow for that. Things like Inverted Spear of Heaven don't allow for that. Technically, you could argue that Limitless allows for that, but at least in all of our showings of the Limitless, usually it's Gojo comboing with himself, using his own body as a conduit. Meanwhile, he doesn't necessarily use red and blue too often to combo into each other, except for one major exception in the manga. But with Disaster Flames, you can always do that. You can always stack. You can always just kind of flood the battlefield with nonsense. Taking it to a fighting game approach, because, you know, this is kind of what I gotta base things on. Imagine if you were playing Smash Bros. Or Fighters, and instead of having to play the game fairly and have to just deal one-on-one with your opponent and their assists, you could just kind of call a whole bunch of assists and also hit them with attacks all across the screen. You can essentially just become the Ginyu Force. You can become Rosalina and Luma. You can consistently have screen presence. You can consistently have battlefield presence. That's something that Disaster Flames in particular consistently provides. No matter what, no matter where, no matter how, no matter why, you are consistently going to be oppressed with Disaster Flames. And I think that's fantastic. It's an underrated part of the ability. And I will say this. Jogo in particular, the anime does a better job of expanding on it, but Jogo in particular doesn't use the ability all too well, but then again, he doesn't have many chances to use the ability all too well. So I think Disaster Flames, it's going to be a lot of conjecture. It's going to be using a lot of what the anime has to offer for it, but still, very, very good stuff. Another major thing of Jogo that's really, really nice, even though we don't really get to see the utilization of it in an appropriate fashion, at least not in my opinion, the domain expansion. Now, we don't know what the sure hit is. We simply don't. It's unfortunate, but we know it has a domain. We know what the domain looks like, and we have a statement from Jogo that the average sorcerer can just cook up in there automatically. So the fact that Jogo has access to an area that kind of pre-comes with, not like that, but literally it is built in to have the most appropriate setting for all of his combat while giving him the stat buff, while giving him access to a sure hit they didn't activate for some reason, while doing all that. That's some really, really good stuff. Essentially take all the points I mentioned about battlefield control, area denial, battlefield manipulation, all that, and jack it up to 11 within Jogo's domain, because it's everything he has to offer. Plus an unknown sure hit effect, which who knows what it would do. Maybe it would be instant meteors, maybe it would be instant stuff like, wait a minute. Hold on a second. I just said meteors. Now, meteors are nice. They're good. The only thing is about Disaster Flames, though, is that Maximum Meteor kind of sucks. Like, I can defend a whole bunch of what Disaster Flames has to offer on other fronts. Once again, I do appreciate its battlefield control. I do appreciate its stack ability, its combo ability. All that's fantastic. Maximum Meteor is just way too slow, though. And here's the thing, right? I'm not saying it's too slow because 15-Finger Sukuna was able to dodge it. Obviously, 15-Finger Sukuna is arguably second or third fastest character in the verse. Like, if you think Sukuna's stats don't change when he goes back into his original body or gets more fingers, then he may be first. It depends on if you think Gojo or Sukuna's faster. If Gojo using blue is faster, or if Sukuna just in general is faster. But that's not why I say Maximum Meteor is kind of booty cheeks. I say it because that disgusting waste of ink, time, and space, Panda was able to dodge it at like nigh on point blank range. Remember, Suguna put them in a setup scenario where he's like, hey, don't you move, because if you do, you're getting clapped. And not in a way that you would like. So they literally had to wait until the last second to dodge Maximum Meteor. And you literally see Kusakabe and Panda later. We don't see the randoms they were fighting. But we see Kusakabe and Panda later, and they are unscathed. Not a single burn on them. So Maximum Meteor being so slow that fodder, disgusting, random filth like Panda's able to dodge. Unfortunately, Maximum Meteor isn't the best. The only hope is that Maximum Meteor could be used as a sure hit inside the domain. Because notably, Maximum Meteor is very, very powerful. And it's something I haven't mentioned so far about all this. I haven't mentioned that fire is fire and lava is lava, and thus it would do a lot of damage. But Maximum Meteor, at least by Suguna's own admission, somewhat. Admittedly, this is debatable, and usually I'd argue against it, but I'm trying to be as generous to Disaster Flames and by proxy Jogo as possible. Jogo believes that if it were to hit Suguna, it would do just an itty bitty bit of damage. It would do some. And Suguna does not disagree. In fact, he simply clarifies, oh, yeah, maybe, if it hit. And that's the big issue. The speed of Maximum Meteor is one of the most heart-wrenching things about it, considering it's one of 3 maxims we have in the entire series, and it makes 2 out of the 3 kind of booty meat, unlike Uzumaki, which is a very, very good maxim, but we'll cover Curse Spirit Manipulation another day. Maximum Meteor on its own is kind of booty meat. It is kind of area denial and terrain manipulation to the ultimate degree, because like a maximum rock, right? Like it's just a bell ball, a molten rock that you drop on your opponent, but if your opponent's Panda level, they can dodge it. So like, that ain't all too good, especially coming from someone who's supposed to be one of the fastest characters in the series, like Jogo. It's pretty unfortunate. But Disaster Flames in itself is not to blame for that, because you have access to all the other things that the Disaster Flames has to offer, which in my opinion makes the technique just better and better and better in comparison to a lot of its competition. The battlefield, the damage, the innate manipulation of everything in a battlefield, plus the activation of one's own domain, plus a maximum technique. All of that is fantastic. The Disaster Flames is not complex, unfortunately. It's not necessarily too deep of a weapon or technique or anything like that, but I do have to say it is pretty darn solid. If I had to give it a rating, I'd give it a solid like 8 out of 10. A solid 8 out of 10. The only reason it doesn't get that nice 10 out of 10 or 9 out of 10, despite its extremely juicy utility, and the fact that it can be used at all different kinds of range, and the fact that it can be used to do all different types of damage, and all that, is because of the fact that the domain expansion does not have a confirmed sure hit. It likely does. We don't know what it does and how much damage it would do. And also the Maximum Meteor is a bit too slow. Sure, you can do a whole lot with basic applications of fire and lava, but that can only take you so far. You can't expect to reach the heavens, burn everything down, as Suguna said himself, unless you have something a little bit more than that. So I would personally give it an 8 out of 10. But what would you guys give Disaster Flames? Please let me know in the comment section down below. But before I let you go, if you made it all the way to the end of this video, please leave "Stand proud, Suguna. You're strong" in the comment section down below. I want to thank you guys so much for watching once again. Please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you hit that little notification bell so you do not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon below. You support for as low as $1 a month. Get exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Some of those perks will include the live reaction to the next chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen. Now, I want to thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Dago the Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members, Wakana Plays and Redwolf4765. I'd like to give a thank you to our $5 patrons, Winter, Victor, Sean, Midnight Gemlord, Kevin, and Demix LND. I'd like to give another thank you to our $7 member, Autumn's Morning Lazo. I'd like to give another scrumdiddlyumptious thank you to our $10 patrons, Robbie Uchiha, Joaquin, and Ida Mokami. I'd like to give another thank you to our $25 member, Alex Ice Rose. I'd like to give one final thank you to our $25 patrons, Igneal and Calvin Elder.